In a small village near the northern border, nestled between rolling hills and vast plains, lived a man named Simon, known to all as a skilled horsekeeper. His family had tended horses for generations, and his stables were filled with strong, beautiful animals. He had a son, Daniel, who had inherited his father's love for horses and spent his days riding and caring for the herd. One morning, Simon and Daniel woke to discover that one of their finest horses, a swift black stallion, had broken free from its enclosure. Tracks led north, toward the lands of the nomadic tribes that roamed beyond the mountains. The villagers, hearing of the runaway horse, came to offer their condolences. "What a terrible loss," said one neighbor. "That stallion was worth a fortune." Another added, "You must be heartbroken. Losing such a horse will surely bring hardship." But Simon only smiled and shrugged. "Who is to say this is bad fortune? Perhaps it will bring us some unexpected good." The villagers exchanged puzzled glances. How could losing such a prized horse be anything but bad luck? They shook their heads, whispering about Simon's odd sense of calm as they returned to their homes. Months passed, and life went on in the village. Simon and Daniel continued to care for their remaining horses, and though they missed the stallion, they did not dwell on the loss. Then, one afternoon, a rider appeared on the horizon, galloping toward the village with a cloud of dust trailing behind. As the figure drew closer, Simon and Daniel recognized the runaway stallion, and it wasn't he alone. Behind it followed a herd of wild, magnificent horses, strong and fierce, their coats gleaming in the sun. The stallion had led them home. The villagers, hearing the commotion, rushed to Simon's stable. They were astonished by the sight of the wild horses, all under Simon's care now. "Such luck!" one neighbor exclaimed. "The runaway horse has brought you a whole herd of the finest horses from the nomads." "Congratulations," said another. "Your fortune has surely turned." Simon, however, remained as calm as ever. He stroked the stallion's mane and said, "Perhaps this is good fortune. But who is to say it won't lead to something bad?" Again, the villagers were baffled. Simon had just gained a fortune in horses, yet he didn't seem to celebrate. But they had learned not to question his strange outlook and left him to his thoughts. Among the new horses was a powerful gray mare that caught Daniel's eye. He began to train her, spending hours in the field, riding and working with her to build trust. One day, as he galloped across the open plain, disaster struck. The mare, startled by a sudden movement, reared back, throwing Daniel to the ground. His leg snapped under the weight of his fall, leaving him writhing in pain. When the villagers heard of Daniel's injury, they came once again to Simon's home, this time with words of sympathy. "This is terrible," one said. "Your son has broken his leg so badly. It will take months to heal." Another shook his head. "Such misfortune. He may never ride again." But Simon only sighed and said, "Perhaps. But who is to say this is truly bad? It could lead to something good." The villagers left, even more perplexed by Simon's calmness in the face of what they saw as a tragic accident. To them, it was clear that Daniel's injury was a disaster. But Simon refused to see things in such simple terms. Weeks turned into months, and as Daniel's leg slowly healed, another storm began to brew in the north. Tensions between the kingdom and the nomadic tribes grew worse, and rumors of an impending invasion spread throughout the border villages. One morning, a royal decree arrived: all able-bodied young men from the region were to be drafted into the army to defend against the invaders. The villagers were filled with fear and sorrow. Their sons, brothers, and husbands were being sent to the front lines, many of them inexperienced in combat. The threat of war loomed large, and few believed their loved ones would return unscathed if they returned at all. But when the soldiers came to Simon's house, Daniel was exempted from the draft. His broken leg had left him with a limp, making him unfit for battle. While his friends and neighbors marched off to war, Daniel stayed behind, helping his father tend the horses. The months that followed were difficult for the village. Many of the young men who had been drafted never returned. Those who did were scarred by battle, both physically and emotionally. Families mourned the loss of their sons, while Simon and Daniel continued their quiet life, untouched by the horrors of war. One day, the villagers gathered at Simon's home once more, this time with a sense of awe. "You were right," said one. "Your son's injury saved him from the war." Another nodded. "What we thought was bad luck turned out to be a blessing." Simon smiled gently and replied, "Yes, and who is to say what may come next? Good fortune, bad fortune, sometimes they are two sides of the same coin." As the years passed, Simon's words became a lesson that the villagers never forgot. They came to understand that what seems like misfortune may lead to unexpected blessings, and what seems like good luck may bring unforeseen challenges. Life, after all, was unpredictable, full of twists and turns that no one could foresee. Simon continued to care for his horses, and Daniel, though he never fully recovered from his injury, found peace in his new role, helping his father manage the stables. Together, they lived a quiet life, no longer worrying about whether luck was good or bad, but accepting each day as it came. And so, the villagers would often repeat the saying that had come from Simon's wisdom: "The horse keeper lost his horse, but who is to say it wasn't he for the best?" It became a reminder that in the grand scheme of life, what seems like a loss may, in time, turn into a gain.